Hello there, this is Heirs to the Kingdom channel, and today's lesson we're doing chapter 36 of Isaiah. And this is not really a prophecy part that we're going over tonight. This is starting, the part where Assyria is coming to defeat Jerusalem, because God promised that they're going to be punished for their wickedness. So God sent the Assyrian army to come and enslave the Israelites to teach them a lesson about not obeying their master, God. We talked about this multiple times and stuff. I will apologize ahead of time. I do have a dog sitting here going back and forth eating some dog food. So if you do hear him in the microphone, I'm terribly sorry, but my day was busy today. I got started really late, and right now it is almost 11 o'clock at night, and I'm just now getting my video done, which normally I do it between 7 and 8 o'clock. So had to do some shopping, take care of this, take care of that. Had a neighbor, they need prayer. One of their relatives passed away from overdose, and that's my next door neighbor, so went to help with some stuff there too. Like I said, so it's getting started a little bit late, and normally my dogs are still put up when I do this, but right now, they got to eat too. But yeah, so we're going to get started right on in here. This is going to be a short reading. There's only 22 verses, and the next chapter is attached to this one, but there's 38 verses in that. And so I'm just going to do this chapter by itself. It's going to be a short reading, pretty straightforward. Nothing to really decipher here too much. But yeah, if you are new to this is a Bible study channel where I read through the Bible from beginning to end. I don't skip anything. Talk about things, explain certain parts that you may not understand, that may seem confusing, especially words that we don't normally use today. And so I just like to help other people understand the Bible, better if they don't already know it. I do recommend starting off at Genesis chapter 1 and getting caught up if you have not been following along. But I try to do a video every day, as I always try to be in God's Word every day, so might as well just go ahead and do a video at the same time. But yeah, so like I keep talking about how America, if God's willing to punish his own people, cast them into slavery to get them to come back to him, and I've told many times, what does America think it's special? That it won't be punished for disobeying God as a majority. Our politicians as a majority don't follow God no more. Our societies don't. They worship the almighty dollar. And so we're having a lot of problems all across America today. And it does seem that a lot of people are praying and trying to turn back to the Lord. And God's trying, things are starting to work in a pathway that might lead us back to the Lord. I hope so. Get some common sense going back in here, because I'm tired of super expensive groceries. And while I was doing my shopping, I bought 25 things at Walmart. It cost me $210 for 25 things. But, I said I was hoping my neighbors, one thing was a tray of lasagna I got for them for a meal, that, frozen lasagna, so they can just put it in the oven, so they didn't have to worry about cooking or anything, at least for one day. But yeah, I got 2 trays of lasagna. I got myself one. They got this Stouffer's chicken lasagna. I wanted to try it. I talked about it before, how Walmart quit making the Mexican lasagna, which I loved that one. Oh gosh, I love that one. And they quit making it. So Stouffer's has this chicken one, and I'm like, well, I'll try it. My acid reflux does not like the marinara sauce or anything else that they do in their pastas. Their especially frozen meal ones got too many chemicals and stuff in it. Tears my stomach up now, but regardless of that, we got a bag of cat food, and that was my big purchases. And I got a 10-pound tube of hamburger. That was over $30-something now. Almost $34 for a 10-pound tube of hamburger. Yeah, it's insanely, prices going way up there. $210 for only 25 items. The rest was like my dry cereal snack, some ketchup, a couple of, one bottle of vitamins. Anyways, stuff like that. But it's either our pay needs to go up or the prices need to come down, because we are at the, we're primed to have another depression happen, because people ain't buying cars, people ain't buying houses, everything's outrageously priced. No one's making enough money for this stuff. And this is what happens when you follow Satan. When your country starts following Satan, our cars are made completely garbage today. They're not worth buying, and they're overpriced. And somebody engineered them to the point that they make them useless because they decided to follow the dollar signs instead of God. God says, do your works if you're doing it for the Lord, not for men. Doesn't matter, your position or title. Do your works if you're doing it for the Lord, not for men. That means these engineers out there designing stuff. These people making building materials for building homes that are mostly made out of sawdust and plastic. Charging $400 and something thousand for garbage. It's I used to build house and stuff too, when I actually used to still use plywood walls, plywood roof. What, no OSB junk. Plywood floors. Double layered plywood floors. Back when houses were less than $100K. They were built better, made more sense. I mean, the only advancement that we've had in this world lately that's made things better is insulation. We got better insulation than what we used to have. That's about it. I'm sorry, PEX plumbing. That stuff is a whole lot better than cast iron, copper, and PVC. I will have to give it that. I do like working with PEX. I thought at first it was stupid, but then I started using it and everything else, and replumbed a house or two with it, and I'm like, this stuff is genius. And it can handle freezes far more often. But I don't get the plastic fittings, though. I get the brass fittings for the corners, the 90 degrees and stuff like that, and the T fittings and stuff. I can't see those little bitty hard plastic ones being able to, be all that durable. So I do spend the extra money and get actual brass fittings. But to each their own on that. But anyways, getting back to the study at hand, God will walk away from you if you turn back to sin. Now, he may not take your salvation away, but he will walk away from you and let the world beat the heck out of you. And sometimes he lets it happen just to make you stronger. So sometimes did I do something wrong? Hello? You feel like, is there a door I can knock on? Somebody I can talk to? It's like, what did I do to deserve this? And nothing. Just how life is. But yeah. And anyways, I said this is the title of this is Isaiah and Hezekiah. Hezekiah is the king at the time. But I said we're just getting into this part where, they got the people, the recorder and stuff that writes all this stuff down. And so it's also with the scribe, which rewrites all the scrolls. But yeah, Hezekiah worships false gods, as many other kings have done. before. God does not sit here with nations and say, okay, you messed up one time, I'm abandoning you for 100 years. No, nothing like that. This is like they continuously disobeyed, and it says, okay, enough's enough. We went through the one part where it's like, they did have a king. I can't remember the king's name, but he was, after the Lord's own heart. And God says, he goes, I will not let anything happen during your time, says, but the people will still be punished because it was coming. So even though you've been a good king and a godly king, a punishment is still coming for the Israelites because of the sin they did beforehand. And once the punishment process has started, he's not going to stop it. And so that's where we're talking about here. This is, we already talked about the part where Isaiah walked around naked. I think it said 3 years. And I was talking about how they stayed behind the walls because they couldn't breach the walls of the city. But they pretty much blocked themselves in. And so after a while, they were just starving to death because there was no more provisions left. And they couldn't go out and get any more provisions, and no provision could come in because the city was surrounded. So some of that stuff's going to be talking about in here as well. So let's go ahead and get started here. Only 22 verses to read. Pretty straightforward. So starting off 36 verse 1. Now it came to pass in the 14th year of King Hezekiah that Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came up against all the defenced cities of Judah and took them. And the king of Assyria sent Rabshakeh from Lachish to Jerusalem unto King Hezekiah with a great army. And he stood by the conduit of the upper pool in the highway of the fuller's field. Then came forth unto him Eliakim, Hilkiah's son, which was over the house, and Shibna, the scribe, and Joah, Asaph's son, the recorder. And Rabshakeh said unto them, Say ye now to Hezekiah, Thus saith the great king, the king of Assyria, What confidence is this wherein thou trustest? I say, sayest thou, but they are not vain words. I have counsel and strength for war. Now on whom dost thou trust, that thou rebellest against me? Lo, thou trustest in the staff of this broken reed on Egypt, whereon if a man lean, it will go into his hand and pierce it. So is Pharaoh king of Egypt to all that trust in him. So pretty much trying to let them know, which more than likely they knew at the time, that if you try to trust in Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to come help you, he's more than likely going to stab you in the back more than anything. Just untrustworthy person. Kind of like how you have people in society today, people call themselves your friends. Next thing you know, I've had a friend steal my identity, run up $7,000 in debt, and stole about $9,000 or $10,000 from his own dad, this, that, and the other. And I one time in my life would have trusted this man with my life, and I'm like, this is what Satan produces. When people are not Christian, I've talked about it before, it's kind of like that thing with the Matrix. If you're not one of us, you're possibly one of them. So even if you're not one of them right now, one of the agents, you can become one. Deceived by Satan type thing. So it's a person that, you would trust for years. Next thing you know, they stab you in the back. Make a move on your spouse or this, that, and the other, stuff like that. It's satanic people are weak. Godly people, iron sharpens iron. That's why sometimes you start having a whole lot of hard times in your life, and it makes you a stronger Christian. You'll either quit being a Christian or be a stronger Christian. One or the other. But anyways, let's continue on. Verse 7. But if thou say to me, We trust in the Lord our God, is it not he whose high places and whose altars Hezekiah hath taken away, and said to Judah and to Jerusalem, Ye shall worship before this altar? Now therefore give pledges, I pray thee, to my master, the king of Assyria, and I will give thee 2,000 horses, if thou be able on thy part to set riders upon them. How then wilt thou turn away the face of one captain of the least of my master's servants, and put my trust on Egypt for chariots and for horsemen? And am I now come up without the Lord against this land to destroy it? The Lord said unto me, go up against this land and destroy it. As I said, sometimes God has people that he calls up and says, same thing he did with the Israelites. The Canaanites been disobeying me for 400 years. They're passing children through fire, this, that, and the other. Go up and destroy them. The land that they have is now yours. That's how Israel came into existence. The Canaanites were sinning against God. They were killing children for pleasure, for worshiping a false god, being promised financial and sexual and personal pleasure. They were willing to kill their own kids for it, kind of like abortions today. Hey, you don't want that child holding you down, this, that, and the other. You want to be able to party. You want to be able to have random sex again, this, that, and the other. You can't do that with a kid. Go ahead and kill it now and be able to enjoy life. That's the words that go through their heads. You can't trust a satanic person to have morals. It's not going to happen. And so God told these people, go up and take Israel. And so that's what they're doing. Because the thing is, if God was on the side of the Israelites, they knew that they couldn't go take the land. So word came to them to go up and says, hey, God has abandoned this people because the people have abandoned him. You can now go take the land. You can go take it, destroy it all, take them into captivity. And this is what happens to them. It's happened multiple times, but anyways, verse 11. Then said Eliakim and Shebna and Joah unto Rabshakeh, speak, I pray thee, unto thy servants in the Syrian language, for we understand it, and speak not to us in the Jews' language, in the ears of the people that are on the wall. So you got little deceivers here saying, hey, speak to us directly, and don't let them hear you and stuff like that, speaking a different language. As I said, you can't trust people that don't follow the Lord, because there's always a lot of times they always have an ulterior motive. Let's continue on, verse 12. But Rabshakeh said, hath my master sent me to thy master and to thee to speak these words? Hath he not sent me to the men that sit upon the wall, that they may eat their own dung and drink their own piss with you? Then Rabshakeh stood and cried with a loud voice in the Jews' language and said, hear ye the words of the great king, the king of Assyria. Thus saith the king, let not Hezekiah deceive you, for he shall not be able to deliver you. Neither let Hezekiah make you trust in the Lord, saying, the Lord will surely deliver us. This city shall not be delivered into the hand of the king of Assyria. Hearken not to Hezekiah, for thus saith the king of Assyria, make an agreement with me by a present, and come out to me, and eat ye every one of his vine, and every one of his fig tree, and drink ye every one the waters of his own cistern, until I come and take you away to a land like your own land, a land of corn and wine, a land of bread and vineyards. Beware lest Hezekiah persuade you, saying, the Lord will deliver us. Hath any of the gods of the nations delivered his land out of the hand of the king of Assyria? Where are the gods of Hamath and Arphad? Where are the gods of Sepharvaim? And have they delivered Samaria out of my hand? Who are they among all the gods of these lands that have delivered their land out of my hand, that the Lord should deliver Jerusalem out of my hand? But they held their peace and answered him not a word, for the king's commandment was, saying, answer him not. Then came Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, that was over the household, and Shebna, the scribe, and Joah, the son of Asaph, the recorder, to Hezekiah with their clothes rent, and told him the words of Rabshakeh. And that's the end of the reading. It said pretty straightforward. But you'll notice here, back to that part, and I talked about this yesterday, how people don't understand what it is to follow a king or have a master, because if you're American, you've been raised that, no one's above you. No one's over you. You're free. Blah, blah, blah. But most other lands, they don't allow their people that freedom. In a republic, it does happen, but in communist, of course, communism and, socialism, heck, no, there ain't no freedom whatsoever. You will answer to a master. And normally they're not nice ones at all, because if they were nice, they wouldn't be a communist or socialist. They don't have to take your freedom to get, the job done, because they would be nice. But like here, it's like, these people are suffering. They're starving. And the people there already know it. Says, the people are eating what they can out of their own poop and recycling their own water. And this has been done quite a few times to cities being besieged. Says, but they still held their peace and answered him not, because the king's commandment was saying, answer him not. So they said nothing. I'm pretty sure they wanted to. They knew they were they already knew their king was not godly, not on the side of God, worshiping false gods. They already knew this stuff, but they still obeyed the king. Because what? Why? Because if they didn't, the king could have them killed. It always baffles me how you can have one person saying they're king, and then they command armies to go against their own people. And I'm like, why don't the armies just take out the corrupt king? And it always baffles me. But I've never been under a kingdom. I don't know what it is to live in such things, because I was born and raised in America. Here we have rights, and I've always been able to exercise my rights. Never been held back from anything, so. But I said, now serving God, when he says do something, his punishment is nowhere near what a king would do if you mess up. Yesterday I was talking about how I had a really bad day I don't know, wait a minute. I think it was after the video. I was trying to do something around the house, and I got some new phones or whatever, new house phones, and I had to move this really heavy bed that's also got storage and stuff under it out of the way. I had to take everything apart just to move this heavy bed system out of the way, just to put a different charger, plug a different charger up. Oh man, it was like I was so angry. I cut my finger. These stupid slides for the drawers, because it's a captain's bed, so it's got that built-in dresser and stuff in it too. Had to pull all the drawers out, and then all of a sudden the slides would mess up, and a couple of them came apart, and the bolo bar bearings started falling out, and had to bend stuff back. And it was a nightmare, because the drawers are pretty big, and I live alone. If I had somebody on one side, me on the other, it'd been a whole totally different ball game. But que sera, sera. Anyways, I was not a good Christian. And I was saying all sorts of words I shouldn't have been and everything else, but I was just so upset, so frustrated. But God understands stuff like that, because I was out of my normal nature. And so I was automatically forgiven, even though to me I shouldn't have been. I shouldn't have let it go like that, but I was just mad and upset. That's what life does to us. So God is a king, unlike any king that's, pretty much ever been on this earth. He's a graceful king, full of grace and mercy. We don't deserve him, and I'm glad I have him. But I said there's the next chapter tomorrow is attached to this one, and so I think there's like 38 verses in it. So we'll finish this up tomorrow. I don't know. Wait a minute. Let me go ahead and do a couple of checks here real quickly. I need to see about 38. Okay, so yeah, 37 is an addition to this, and then it's kind of a separate section with 38. So yeah, we'll be finishing this one up tomorrow. Anyways, almost 30 minutes have passed because I talked quite a bit about some other things, some other stuff. And it feels good to be able to just talk about things sometimes, you know. I do know there's people out there listening. I appreciate that. Like I always say, pray for me, I pray for you. I need prayer. I am not perfect. No one is. I stumble and fall quite a bit. I don't want to, but it's going to happen. We can't become good Christians without failure. You can't ever be successful at something without failing at things. And so that's why I always say we got to pray. And I still say it. Pray for my neighbor. I pray for them. You know, a lady lost a son to drugs in her house. They woke up to him dead. And my dogs let me know of all the little flashing lights and vehicles and stuff that was out the road. Because, well, that's what dogs do. And but I waited till they came to me to let me know what was going on. I don't intrude on people. I don't really go ask questions and stuff, you know, not unless it's something that I know that I can help with at the time. But yeah, it's, that's I never got to have any kids, but the same woman, my neighbor, she also, I was friends with her husband. He passed away a few years ago. Now she lost a son, and she's got other kids and grandkids. But she still lost him. He was only, I think, 28 years old. It's, drugs are bad. We got to make sure we keep educating our children. I don't have any, but if you do have children, make sure, start at a young age, teaching them about how bad drugs are. That, you know, it's, the kids are a lot smarter than you know. Please don't think that their ears are too young to hear. They are a sponge when they're young. If you wait till they're a teenager and you try to teach them anything, nope, they're a blockhead at that time. You go from an absorbent sponge of a brain to a solid rock of don't want to listen to nothing, rebellious time, and then when they get older and realize, oh, I'm not that smart, then they start wanting to learn again. So you got to teach them when they're really young. This much I know. I've helped raise other people's kids and stuff, my sisters and stuff. I'm not an idiot to it, but I never got to have any of my own. Doesn't mean I don't know things. But I do know you. If you have kids, you got from birth till 10 to do the discipline and stuff, the things that they're going to follow with throughout their teenage years. Because once they get teenage years, they start getting that little rebellious. That's why the Bible says, raise your children in following, you know, in God's word, and they will not part far from it. But remember, God says they will part from it, but you don't want them to part too far from it, because everyone's got that thing where they go to the word a little bit, then they come back, and, you know, it just happens until they realize, I need to dedicate my life wholeheartedly here. And that's what happens. But it either they go fully to the world or fully to Lord. You know, some of them try to tap in the middle, but God says that those are the worst ones. He'll spat, you know, those are the lukewarm ones. He'll spat them out. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and end this lesson here. So remember to pray. Pray for the lost. Pray for your country, this country, or pray for all the countries. You know, the end times are closer now than what they were before. They are coming. So be ye ready, for ye not know when the master of the house cometh. Always be ready to meet the Lord. So until next time, God bless, good night, and goodbye.